There's a version of self improvement advice that sounds quite helpful, but quietly makes everything worse. And somewhere in midlife, most of us have been handed that advice. For example, you should really exercise more. Have you tried journaling? What about meditation? And we try. We really do try. But what nobody explains is why those things keep sliding off our lives like water off glass. And why something as simple as a daily walk might be doing something that the bigger, louder habits can't. Hi, I'm Jessica. I want to talk with you today about walking, not as a fitness prescription, not as a step count competition, but as something that in midlife can become surprisingly honest. A practice that does things to your brain and your nervous system that have direct implications for the kind of clarity and integrity work so many of us are trying to do in this season of life. Because here's what I've noticed in my own life and in the 15 years of sitting with people navigating midlife transitions. A lot of us are trying to think our way to better alignment. And sometimes what the body actually needs is to walk. The source video that inspired this one laid out the physiological case for walking clearly. Hippocampal growth, cortisol regulation, mitochondrial biogenesis, and blood sugar stabilization. All of that is real and the research is solid. But there's a layer underneath that science that I think gets missed. And it's the layer that matters most in midlife specifically. We are at a developmental stage that researchers like Erik Erikson identified as one of the most psychologically complex of our lives. This is the period where the questions get heavier. Who have I become? Is this still who I want to be? What did I build, and does it reflect what I actually value? Those aren't casual questions, and they're exhausting to carry around in a body that's already managing elevated cortisol, disrupted sleep, shifting hormones, and what researchers call allostatic load, the cumulative weight of chronic stress on the nervous system. Here's the thing that nobody says plainly enough. You cannot think clearly about who you are when your nervous system is stuck in threat mode. The integrity work, the honest self-examination, the values clarification, the hard conversations, all of that requires a particular quality of mental presence that chronic stress actively blocks. And that is exactly where walking enters the picture. If you've ever started a walking practice and then let it go only to notice things felt a little grayer without it, hit the like button. Because what you experienced wasn't coincidental. That was biology, and it deserves to be understood. Let me walk you through what the research actually shows, filtered through what I think matters most for where we are in life. The first thing walking does is interrupt the stress cycle. Not eliminate it, interrupt it. A steady, rhythmic walk activates what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the rest and repair branch. The predictable left to right motion, the rhythm of your own footfall, the shift in your visual field as you move through space, are signals your nervous system reads as, I am safe, I am not being chased, I can come down now. For people in midlife who are carrying heavy cognitive and emotional loads, managing careers, aging parents, changing relationships, evolving identities, that signal matters. Because what often looks like indecision or numbness or that foggy disconnection from our own values is often a nervous system that hasn't had a real off switch in a very long time. The second thing walking does is protect and even rebuild parts of the brain that midlife starts to quietly erode. There's a brain structure called the hippocampus. It's central to memory, learning, and emotional regulation. Research has shown that regular aerobic walking can actually increase hippocampal volume, not slow the decline, increase. And here's what that means practically. The clearer thinking, the better emotional regulation, the improved capacity to hold complexity without flooding, that's not just mood, that's structure. Walking changes what the brain is capable of doing. A protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, is part of the mechanism. Think of it as fertilizer for neural connections. Walking stimulates its production, and in midlife, when many of us are trying to reconfigure our sense of self, to revise old narratives, to imagine new possibilities, we need that neurological flexibility. The third element is what I think of as mental spaciousness. Research from Stanford found that walking increases creative output by around 60% compared to sitting. And this isn't just about having good ideas on your walk. It's about what happens to the brain's default mode network, the system responsible for insight, imagination, and making connections between things you already know. When we sit, especially under pressure, thinking gets narrow. We problem solve in the same grooves we've always used. Walking opens those grooves. It creates what I'd call a low pressure thinking environment, where the mind can surface things it wouldn't access when you were trying so hard. That's significant for integrity work specifically, because a lot of the clarity people are searching for in midlife doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from thinking differently, and the body can help with that. Here's what I want to name something directly. The source video I was working from frames walking as a health habit, and it is. But for the people watching this channel, I think it's worth saying something more specific. In integrity work, in the process of identifying the gap between the life you're living and the values you actually hold, there's a step that often gets skipped. And that step is settling the body enough to hear the self. We live in a culture that privileges thinking, that treats insight as something you arrive at through analysis, through frameworks, through information. And those things do matter. But the deeper clarity, the kind that names something you've been quietly knowing for a long time, that often comes through the body first. Carl Jung wrote about what he called the individuation process. This process, particularly in the second half of life, is becoming more fully who you actually are, rather than who you were expected to be. It's not a process you can think your way into. It requires a different quality of attention, a softer, more receptive kind of awareness. Walking, for many people, is one of the most accessible points of entry to that kind of attention. Not because it's meditative in some performative sense, but because it removes you from the screen, slows your nervous system, occupies just enough of your mind with the mechanics of movement that the rest of your thinking can breathe. And things surface, not always dramatically, but often quietly, honestly. The conversation you've been avoiding, the thing you've been tolerating that you actually can't, the desire you've been dismissing as impractical. I've had clients describe walks as the only time in their week when they feel like themselves. Not the professional self, not the parent or partner self, just themselves. And I think that deserves to be understood as more than just stress relief. That's access to self. And that's the beginning of integrity work. Conversations like this help you see your way through this phase of life a little more clearly. If you find having the clinical and the personal held together in one place, please subscribe to the button down below. The Integrity Edit publishes 3 videos a week, and this is exactly what we talk about here. So here's the question I want to leave you with. Not are you walking enough? Because that's the wrong frame. The right question is, when do you give yourself unstructured time to be with your own mind? Because for a lot of people in midlife, especially high functioning people who are very good at managing their days, the answer is almost never. Every pocket of time is filled with productivity, connection, content, with doing. And there's often a very understandable reason for that, because the quiet can be uncomfortable. Because when we slow down, the questions that have been waiting patiently get louder. That discomfort, that's not a sign of doing something wrong. That's often a sign that something is ready. Walking doesn't solve the questions, but it can make you available to them. And in my experience, both personally and professionally, availability is often the thing that was missing. Not more information, not a better framework, just the willingness to be present with yourself long enough to hear what's already there. Now, I'd genuinely like to know, do you have a practice, walking or otherwise, that gives you that kind of access to yourself? Tell me in the comments. And if you don't, what gets in the way? I read everything and it shapes what I make next. Here's the thing about consistency that the source video named really well, and I want to bring it home through this lens. The research shows that occasional walking doesn't do what regular walking does, not because intensity matters, but because consistency does. Your body needs repetition to read something as a signal rather than noise. And that's true of integrity work too. Single moment of self-honesty is meaningful, but it's the repeated practice of showing up to yourself with some regularity, with some gentleness, without performance, that actually changes what you're capable of seeing. Walking can be both the practice and the metaphor, showing up, moving at a sustainable pace, not trying to sprint to clarity, just walking consistently in the direction of yourself. This isn't a video that ends with a 7-step plan, because the Integrity Edit doesn't work that way. It works in small, honest moments, in the quiet between one thing and the next, in the willingness to ask the hard questions rather than the easier ones. If walking becomes the container for some of those moments, that's enough. That's actually quite a lot. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.